Hello everyone. In this video, I will discuss one of the films called Crater, and never forget that I always pray for you and your family to be happy and healthy always. In the near future, a nuclear war has caused Earth to slowly deteriorate and become almost uninhabitable. For this reason, a group of astronauts is sent to the moon to build a colony base planned for the future civilization of humanity. Unfortunately, this colonization plan fails, leading to a new plan to conduct large-scale mining of helium resources on the moon. Helium is the only fuel source that humans can use to travel to the new colony planet named Omega. The journey to the new planet takes 75 years, so anyone going there must be placed in cryosleep pods. However, before people are allowed to go to the new planet, they must first work as helium miners for more than 20 years without being allowed to take any vacation days. Even if someone wants just one day off, they have to compensate with longer working hours, possibly exceeding a year. It is now the year 2257, with 50 years having passed since the moon mining began. During this time, many children have been born at the moon base without ever seeing Earth. The daily routines there slowly start to make them feel bored and weary. At that time, rumors circulate about a mysterious crater caused by the fall of a strange object on the moon's surface. However, no one is allowed to approach it, creating significant curiosity among the mining community. Meanwhile, a boy named Caleb, who has lost both of his parents, receives notification that he will soon be sent to the planet Omega to be reunited with a family interested in adopting him. Initially, Caleb refuses this because all of his friends are here, and he's also afraid that he won't be able to adapt to a new environment. However, the supervisor ignores the boy's complaints and declares that Caleb will be flown to Omega in the next 3 days. Caleb then goes to a tall tower to reminisce about the moments when he and his father used to visit the place to gaze at the stars in the sky. Sometime later, Caleb's friends approach him and try to comfort him. Dylan, Borny, and Marcus also feel sad upon hearing that Caleb will soon leave them. However, it's Dylan who remembers Caleb's father's last message, asking him to visit the mysterious crater, and he comes up with an idea. What if they sneak out of the base and have one last adventure by visiting the mysterious crater as a farewell moment? After agreeing with each other, the children then prepare a lot of equipment that will be very necessary for the journey later. Caleb is also visited by an officer who brings him a small capsule containing his father's ashes, named Michael. They also plan to steal an exploration vehicle stored in the garage, but the problem is, to get out of the garage, they need a special access code only held by official staff. Understanding the situation, Dylan decides to approach a girl named Addison, who is the daughter of a science team member at the facility. Given her father's position, Addison undoubtedly has the access code they need. It's known that Addison has just been transferred from Earth to the moon colony, so for now she doesn't have many friends because other kids find her strange. With a somewhat awkward approach, Dylan tries to express their true intention, which unexpectedly prompts Addison to immediately agree to the request, provided she's allowed to join the adventure. Ultimately, thanks to Addison's help, the children manage to steal a rover vehicle and begin their adventure. Along the way, they briefly see the location of the spacecraft that Caleb will use to go to Omega in 3 days. It's also revealed that Marcus has a heart condition that requires him to take medication every few hours. Additionally, they also admire a giant structure that looks very beautiful despite being abandoned. Caleb explains that his father used to tell him about a city, the first civilization built on the moon. However, after the discovery of the Omega planet, this city was abandoned because everyone was more focused on helium mining, which was essential for their journey to Omega. Addison truly can't grasp the magnitude of the problems that have occurred here, because besides being the child of a high-ranking official, she also believes that they only need to wait for 20 years to be transferred to Omega. However, she is shocked after receiving explanations from the others about the dirty business of helium mining. Essentially, everyone is required to work for a full 20 years before being transferred to Omega. But every small mistake made, like being late or falling ill, will only add to their contract time. And even if someone dies before completing their 20 years, their closest family members will have to fulfill the remaining years along with their descendants. Essentially, it's a trap set by the wealthy to keep the families of workers working here forever. Addison immediately apologizes to the others upon learning this fact and tries to improve the situation by sharing stories about planet Earth, from the greenery of the trees, snow in winter, blue skies during the day, to the vast oceans that are never present on the moon. Next, after driving for a while, they stop the rover and start putting on protective suits for a walk. Since Addison is the child of a high-ranking official, she has a much better suit compared to the others. Getting out of the vehicle, the children start playing with the low gravity, enjoying how they can jump higher. Caleb, Dylan, Borny, and Marcus are also amazed by the beauty of planet Earth, which looks round and blue. This sight inspires Addison to teach the children how to play baseball. They use rocks and bits of metal to replace the usual equipment, but when the rocks are hit, they fly too far due to the low gravity. And because the children can't grasp the concept of running around bases, it instantly disappoints Addison, who decides to be alone. She misses her home so much that she tries to reach out to Earth as if she could grab it. Addison's reverie is abruptly interrupted by the noisy sound of Dylan, who is seen using oxygen tanks to fly. They also use safety ropes to prevent themselves from flying too high. Addison quickly approaches and scolds them for discarding the oxygen tanks, which is a very dangerous act. But after Dylan assures her that everything will be fine, Addison eventually joins in the game. For a while, everything goes smoothly and quite enjoyable until it's Borny's turn and the safety cable tying him suddenly breaks, causing him to float uncontrollably. Panicked by this, Marcus, Caleb, and Dylan quickly grab more oxygen tanks intending to help Borny. However, they end up unable to control their trajectory, causing them all to float uncontrollably. Eventually, after colliding with each other and holding onto each other to gather enough weight, they manage to descend back down. And because so many oxygen tanks were wasted, Addison is unsure if they will be able to continue the journey. But then, Caleb remembers that not far from their location, there is an abandoned outpost that likely still has reserve oxygen tanks. Borny hates the idea because he once heard stories from his brother saying that the outpost is full of ghosts. This statement immediately prompts Dylan to call Borny a coward, which instantly sparks an argument between them. Fortunately, Caleb quickly stops them and reminds them that fighting is not the last memory he wants to have with them. In short, after both boys apologize and make amends, Dylan immediately speeds up the rover to go to the abandoned outpost mentioned by Caleb. Upon arrival and entering the very dark corridor, the children scream in fear when they see a human-like figure, but once the lights are turned on, it is revealed that the figure is just a mannequin. Addison soon realizes that this place is actually not an abandoned outpost, but a model home that should function as a sample of what will be tried to build for the moon colonization. While checking and enjoying the facilities there, Dylan shares a story with Addison about the fact that his father deliberately ran away from his responsibility as a helium miner after 14 years of work. This resulted in Dylan and his mother having to bear the remaining 6 years of his father's work and the sanctions for his actions. Meanwhile, Borny, along with Marcus, finally discovers a warehouse where oxygen tanks and food supplies are stored in large quantities. This find leads them to decide to camp there temporarily while holding a party to celebrate their adventure. Amidst the bonfire, Addison begins to tell more about planet Earth, starting from all the cultures and belief systems that have now disappeared. Addison also confesses that both of her parents are divorced. Her mother and younger sibling are on their way to Omega, leaving her with her father, who must first work for 20 years to eventually be able to go to Omega. Suddenly, music starts playing when Borny accidentally presses a mysterious button, making them realize that the house is controlled by advanced computer technology. This discovery naturally angers the children after realizing how unfair the technology applied by the moon colony is. The intense hatred towards this system then takes over their mood, leading them to decide to start destroying the house. While everyone else is asleep, Addison, who is still awake, is approached by Caleb, who begins to talk about how he considers Dylan as his best friend. Dylan is always there when he needs help. Even when Caleb doesn't have food, Dylan will always come to share his food. All these memories make Caleb quite worried, so he asks Addison to promise to be a friend and always support Dylan after he leaves. As morning approached, the children returned to the rover to continue their journey towards the mysterious crater. However, in the middle of the journey, the rover suddenly ran out of battery power, rendering the vehicle immobile. While the children debated what to do next, Addison sent an emergency signal to the Moon Colony headquarters. This initially disappointed the others, but Addison affirmed that they still had enough time to continue their journey to the crater on foot before returning to the rover to get help from the colony headquarters. Immediately, the children put on their protective suits and began walking for some time until they reached a very large crater. This discovery reminded Caleb of his late father and the fact that his father had promised to visit the crater someday, so with this success, Caleb hoped his father would be very proud. When they looked into the crater, they were instantly surprised to find glowing structures surrounded by strange pillars. One of the pillars had the inscription, "The past is never far." There was also a door on the floor that suddenly opened, giving the children the opportunity to enter a corridor filled with oxygen. Finally, they found a room that only had a fake tree in the middle of the black spiral and an inscription that read, "With wings of layered gold, we reach for the stars, but never forget the sky we leave behind." Addison, who seemed to recognize the type of room, began pressing some parts of the wall until a panel opened, revealing a button. When she pressed it, white light instantly enveloped the room and transformed it into a scene resembling Earth. For the first time in their lives, the children could clearly see the beauty of Earth's landscape. Although this view was just a hologram, they still considered it an extraordinary experience. At that moment, Caleb found a star symbol on the floor which, when he picked it up, suddenly ended the hologram. Beneath the star symbol, Caleb found the ashes of his late mother and a photo of his parents together, finally understanding what his father wanted. Caleb took the photo for himself and left his father's ashes along with his mother's. Now Caleb was truly upset and still didn't want to leave the moon because he considered it his real home. However, Dylan quickly reminded his friend that leaving the moon and having a better life on Omega was everyone's dream. So Caleb shouldn't waste the opportunity because Dylan was sure that Michael also wouldn't want to see Caleb stay here. At the same time, Marcus suddenly fell ill due to his blood pressure dropping from being outside for too long. Immediately the group helped him leave the building so they could get his medicine from the rover, but when they managed to get out, suddenly a meteor shower occurred, causing Borny to become very frightened. Fortunately, Caleb, who remained calm, immediately encouraged him and then asked everyone to run with Marcus towards the rover. Unfortunately, in the midst of this escape, a meteor fell near Addison, instantly throwing her and separating her from the group, but fortunately she survived to quickly take cover under the rocks. Caleb and Dylan, realizing that Addison was not with them, immediately left Borny and Marcus to rescue Addison. However, when they arrived, another meteorite hit Dylan, causing him to lose consciousness. Luckily, their protective suits were equipped with repair tools, allowing Caleb to fix Dylan's cracked helmet before carrying his friend back to the rover. Unfortunately, due to the meteor shower, their rover's windshield was damaged, forcing the children to rely on the remaining oxygen tanks. Initially, they doubted if there would be a rescue team coming in the midst of such a meteor shower. So the children decided to give up and use up the remaining oxygen, because if they were to die here, at least they would die together. However, in their unconsciousness, Caleb faintly heard the sound of a rescue team arriving. Sometime later, Caleb, who woke up suddenly, became deeply saddened after learning that he had been sent to Omega without the chance to say goodbye to his friends. In his bag, he found a photo of his parents and a doll given by Addison. A nurse also brought him a digital recorder because for the past 75 years, his friends had always been sending him voice messages. Caleb listened to them all to learn about their lives. Marcus formed a baseball team, and Addison started a movement to improve the miners' contracts, which eventually succeeded, making Borny its main administrator. Dylan and Addison also eventually got married, had children, and now even grandchildren. Caleb was both sad and happy to hear his friends' voices had changed as they grew up without him. Caleb started a new life on Omega, where his foster family quickly welcomed him and offered a better life. It took Caleb some time to adapt and make new friends, and once he learned how to move forward, Caleb decided to go look for Addison's sibling. He brought the doll Addison had given him and shared the experiences of all the adventures they had together on the moon that day. And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.